What's up, Samurai? We are back with some more Trove, and today we are finally having the 45k series come to a close. Well, for the magic classes anyways. I think we still got a couple other odds and ends that I gotta end up fixing. But anyways, today's gonna be the pirate captain, and it's the last of the magic classes. And I don't really see that many people main the pirate captain, but believe you me, this is secretly one of the strongest classes in the game. It just requires very specific circumstances in order to see it do so. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going to Sundered Uplands for 5 minutes, show you how it handles dungeon farming and so on and so forth. Oddly enough, I actually have 138 movement speed instead of the usual 135. I'm not exactly sure why I got that extra movement speed, but okay, whatever. I don't have an ideal class ring or crystal ring, I guess I should say, and I of course am not rocking a maxed out a maxed out class gem. All my other ones are maxed out though. So the main hidden ring effect that you would end up using, there are 3 different options. So Raiders makes it so that your first mate has a chance to spawn extra doubloons, which is how you generate energy. A Vast Yi, basic attacks cause minions to attack the player's target, as well as applying a debuff which increases damage done to it. As far as I know, that one's pretty good. However, as you've noted with Trove, if you've played it for a long enough period of time, you know that when a description of something says that it will make your minions target the enemy that you're attacking, we're talking about Trove here, so they barely hit their mark. Either way, that debuff would be nice if it would actually tag things consistently, but it doesn't really. More importantly, I'd say all hands on deck is probably the best one, so it makes it so that when using Man of War, your ultimate ability, it has a chance of spawning a pirate cannoneer. Now, the big thing is that is very, very situational and very specific to the boss killing capabilities of this character. So anyways, let's get into doing some dungeons, and more so that's foreshadowing because we're going to be talking about, let's see, how do we end up handling these enemies? Well, our damage is not bad. It's not great, as you can see, but I am also not rocking ideal stats, as you may have guessed. Looking at my stats, I've got way too much crit hit. My main magic damage is, I don't know, it's not ideal, right? Like I should be a lot stronger just by changing my stats around and so on and so forth. But because I'm using the same gems on every character, it does mean that these showcases do suffer a little bit. I am using attack speed gear primarily instead of using crit damage gear. But ideally, what we would be doing on this guy would be attack speed and crit damage as the main stats. Now, the trick is that if our ultimate actually ends up tagging the enemy appropriately, if I would stop getting knocked around and could actually see it for a moment here, you can see that we actually have some pretty nice damage going off. That thing did like, what was that? Did I see 50k or something? Or 50 mil? Yeah, something like 50 mil with that ultimate, which is comparable. That's actually really good. It doesn't trigger as often as I would like it to, but that was 50 mil without a flask. As soon as I put a flask on, it's just going to, well, do a lot more. It's really difficult to see it just because these enemies are the most annoying in the game and they just knock us around like crazy. But either way, just know and trust that the pirate captain does a lot more damage than you would think, especially with the ultimate ability, and that's kind of where it really shines. But as far as speed farming is concerned, not that great. The pirate captain is one of those characters that requires a lot of effort before it's strong. You know, like we kind of gotta get all of our minions going, we gotta get doubloons going, we gotta spam all of our abilities and stuff, and we slowly build up to dealing heaps and heaps of damage, which is not very good when you're trying to do dungeons as quickly as possible, especially because we're basically just relying on our natural movement speed. We could, of course, use Lunar Lancer subclass ability to help with the movement speed, because everything is going to make a bit of a difference when we're actually trying to farm as quickly as possible. But getting from one dungeon to another, the class kind of suffers, and more particularly, trying to actually take on the dungeon enemies is another area where we suffer. And so Pirate Captain is not going to be a class that I would recommend for speed farming. Thankfully, because of the star chart movement speed buffs, we can still use this character in every aspect of the game. If you absolutely only have the Pirate Captain as your main and you don't have an alternate set of gems and you don't want to swap your gems, well, then just use the Pirate Captain. You're not great, but as you can see, dungeons, no problem. We're fine. We are draining through our flask quite a bit, but that's also just because welcome to Trove's end game. Not to mention, the real bottom line is that I don't have ideal stats. Because with me having so much extra crit hit on my gems, I would actually be able to swap that crit hit for some extra life, and that would end up making me a lot more tanky and a lot more survivable for a lot of these enemies. Now, granted, there's other characters that are just going to end up doing speed farming a whole lot better, and I think that we've already kind of shown everything that we need to show with this character for Sundered Uplands. So it's not super ideal in terms of depth, but as we've talked about in these videos many times, I need to have portals immediately available to me rather than having to constantly craft them, because otherwise that's going to eat into a lot of my resource supplies and so on and so forth. But anyways, we finally ended up getting a decent objective for one of these 45k videos, which is just kill everything, which Pirate Captain does exceptionally well, as we've already seen. And with the delve floor not super duper deep, it means that even our base attack is doing almost 10 mil damage. And, well, actually, yeah, we're doing like 100 mil damage. I just saw right there. Oh, that was because a flask popped. I didn't realize. It's like a balloon. I'm like a balloon animal, and they're just popping me. But anyways, you know, getting through these enemies in the delves is going to be fine. I have seen people main Pirate Captain for the delves. More particularly, Pirate Captain is going to do a lot better than some other classes in delves. But more so, it's going to end up being a boss killer. And there, again, is a very specific reason for that. But, I mean, as you can see, ooh, random stellar. We're taking on these enemies no problem. And when we end up getting Path Painter, our movement speed goes up to 173, which is not ideal for running through delves, which means that you are primarily here to just soak up, you know, pull all the enemies together and just kill them all. Just blast them all with your cannon. And as you can see, the ultimate, that does even more damage. But we're not going to primarily be using our ultimate as a base ability just because the way that Trove works. Anyways, we only got a few enemies to go, so I'll see you at the boss. All right, now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to use the Knight subclass ability because of the extra flask capacity. And I hope that I don't get one shot because, again, my life is considerably low. But I'm going to swap to Elysian. Do our flasks reset when you activate the boss? We'll just assume that they do and hope that they do. Because where this class really shines, I really hope that I can give you a proper example of this, but I'll probably mess it up just because it is kind of difficult to do. But we can throw down our ult, throw down our little babies, and if we just keep spamming flasks, we can throw down another ult. And if we spam flasks again, we can throw down another ult. And if we spam flasks again, we can throw down another ult. And if we keep spamming flasks, we essentially can end up just getting like heaps and heaps of our turrets going down. And Pirate Captain can single-handedly do some of the highest damage in the entire game. You didn't think I would say that in today's video, did you? The Pirate Captain and some of the highest damage in the same sentence. But it can. You saw that damage number up at the top. It was getting pretty high up there, despite the fact that the boss was so resistant. Debuff attackers who are more than 5 blocks away. Players take additional damage. Where's the damage buff? Enemies have reduced darkness. Takes additional damage from players. I swear to God, that thing had like extra life or something, because he would have died like so much faster otherwise. Anyways, in conclusion, should you main the Pirate Captain? Well, you definitely can. For the entirety of the game, you can. Thanks to the Trove skill tree, almost every class in the game is viable for every category, right? You're not going to be good for speed farming, and just dungeons in general might give you some trouble, especially in the early game when the Pirate Captain is kind of weak. But the real bottom line is that Pirate Captain can be absolutely devastating for bosses when it wants to. Because keep in mind that in this delve, This is a very specific situation. It's a lot easier because of how dumb the enemy is to manipulate my flask in such a way that I could end up using my ult over and over again. It becomes exceedingly difficult to do that same thing when we're fighting a Leviathan because it's a lot more chaotic. The characters, the Leviathan's hitbox is so much bigger. It's pulling you around, and there's lots of other players around that kind of minimize the effect, right? But does that mean you can't use Pirate Captain as a boss killer? No, you most definitely can. And you can end up using it quite effectively for Leviathans as well. It's just a lot of other characters will have a much lower skill ceiling. Like, it's a lot easier to just slap all your gems on Solarian and call it a day, and you're going to do consistently more damage without running out of all of your flasks. That's the biggest problem with this setup in particular, is that as far as fighting a boss is concerned, it's great so long as you have somewhere that you can recharge your flasks, because you're going to be pumping them down hard. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to coming back soon, because I'm still in Japan at the moment that this video is going up, I think, if I timed everything correctly. Otherwise, I might already be back. Anyways, smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want, support the channel, sign on, and stay epic, everybody.